Hello and welcome back to the Engage 8 podcast. I am Josh and my co-host Mike. Today is episode 100, so we have some special stuff planned. We're going to always do our regular scheduled programming with college football recap, preview for the next week of the NFL and all that good stuff, as well as Monday Night Football recap from the Broncos-Browns game. But today, because it's episode 100, we went back into the old episodes and the old notes and found our worst takes that we could find. So I'll start us off here. I have them listed by year, but I'll just pick maybe my favorite one here. This is from 2023 before the season. This is a direct quote from me saying, Bryce Young is my favorite rookie of the quarterbacks, immediately in a good spot with a solid O line and good weapons and a solid head coach.
Oh,
Couldn't have been more wrong about that.
yeah, that's
O line horrible, weapons horrible. Frank Reich was fired mid-season that year.
mid-season.
I also had in parentheses been shining in camp. I don't know if that was true. Maybe it was at the time, but I also had them having like a decent season, third place. I also said direct quote that they would score a lot of points and stay in games. They finished with the worst points per game of the season and had a negative 180 point differential. So
Yeah,
they indeed did not stay in a lot of games. That's probably my worst one, I'd say.
yeah. I don't want to say this is my worst one. It's maybe the most unfortunate one. But last year for AFC South awards, I had picked Darius Leonard to
Oh,
be
that's
my
one of mine too. That's
defensive.
what it was.
I had picked Darius Shaquille Leonard to be my defensive player of the year. Got cut mid-season, barely played then when he got signed by the Eagles. I just blame that to injuries though. So much went through with his back and knee and just his entire body, and he's out of the league pretty much now. But he did get inducted into the South Carolina State Hall of Fame this weekend,
Good
so
for him.
congratulations to him there.
Yeah, that exact one was on my list. Shaq Leonard, AFC South depoy. He also isn't on a team anymore either.
Yeah.
So it's been rough. One of the most wild fall offs in recent years. Speaking kind of similar vibe here, I had Devin White as my NFC South Division MVP. Going into
Oh yeah,
last year,
I remember that one.
he had a horrible season. Contract disputes throughout the season ended up being cut. I think from multiple different teams. With the Bucks and the Eagles. Another guy just kind of had a complete fall off of his career after I picked him to win the MVP of the NFC South that year.
Yeah, man. I'm looking at I just turned the page because I wrote down my notes for last year. For some reason, didn't put them on a Google Doc, but where'd it go? Oh, there it is. The Atlanta Falcons. I don't know what my exact quote was, but I had mentioned that this is a chance for Desmond Ridder to break out.
Oh wow. Yeah, it's safe to say that didn't happen. At home it did kind of for a little bit.
Yeah, it did not. He was a professional DoorDasher. Now he's back on the Raiders, but it seems like DoorDash is his true calling at this point. Oh
Yeah.
wow, another one really quickly. Who wins the QB battle between Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask?
Oh yeah, I saw that in my notes too. I was like, wow. It was like, yeah, Baker had a couple batted balls at the line in camp the other day.
Yeah,
That ended up working out for them. Most of my other ones are from this year, actually, which is unfortunate enough. I had the Browns finishing second in the North, and I called it a damn near perfect situation for a quarterback. For the Browns, that obviously was not the case. I thought they would have a dominant O line. They ended up having probably the worst O line in football this year. They're going to finish it in last by a mile in the North. I thought it was for sure going to be a playoff team, regardless of who the quarterback was. I think also in 2023 preseason, I was hyping Deshaun Watson up, saying this is the best team he's ever going to play for, and obviously none of that worked out with the Browns.
yes, definitely not. I got a couple from last year still that I remembered. I specifically remember last year, and another member of the podcast, former member Zach, was also very high on this take. Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin being a top wide receiver duo. Terry McLaurin was great. Jahan Dotson, not so much.
Yeah, and Terry was almost not great for a minute until
Yeah,
this year.
last year he was not great. This year
Yeah.
he's been a lot better.
This is one we kind of both had, but I really died on this hill with it's a two-part Steeler one. We were both on the Fields over Russ thing when it first happened. We both
Oh
like
yeah,
ripped Tomlin for it, said it was dumb. I hated the benching there. We flamed Tomlin with Fields in 6 games. They had 20.6 points per game with Russ in 6 games, 28.6 points per game, an entire 8 point difference. They're probably going to win the division. I had them finishing fourth in the AFC North this year, which is just ridiculous. That just couples with my Browns pick for a second, but that one's bad, and the rest of mine are in the AFC East now.
Yeah, I'll go from one from this year. I was talking about the AFC South. I'm pretty sure we said that this was maybe the second best division in football.
Yeah. Oh,
And we're looking at two of the teams in the AFC now fighting for the first overall pick. And
yeah. The
the
worst.
top two
It's
teams
the
aren't
worst
great.
division. It's the worst division
Yeah,
by far.
maybe the worst division.
Yeah. It's that one was brutal. We were dead on with the NFC North though.
Yes, I mean,
So I mean, maybe if we did best takes, we would be in a better spot. But it's definitely more funny to talk about worst takes. Maybe we'll do best takes for 200 or something. But I've mentioned this one like probably every single episode since the beginning of the season, but the Jets winning the East and the second overall seed. I also said multiple things in that segment where I was talking about the Jets. I said they're a top five roster in football. I said Mike Williams is going to have a big impact on this team. He was later ended up traded to the Steelers. I said all last year that all they needed was Rodgers and they would be back, and obviously that was not the case. And I also said my last one here that the Bills would finish third in the AFC East and seventh overall seed, the last wild card. I said I was not confident in Josh Allen's ability without any good receivers. I hated their defense. I still think their defense is flawed, but I hated their defense and I thought they would struggle in their division games. And obviously, none of that was true.
yeah. Um, I'll go to the NFC North. I have a quote in my notes, and the quote says, "A season of hope has quickly turned to into a look away season." That is about the Minnesota Vikings. I had
Mm,
predicted them to finish last place. I thought Sam Darnold was going
yeah,
to be
so I
terrible,
said that.
but
Yeah.
look at them now. They're fighting for potentially first in the entire NFC. And yeah,
I saw that one in
looking
my
at,
notes and chose not to mention it. Like, just maybe they're gonna fall off still.
I still don't. They're not the talent level of I think the Lions. I think the Packers might still be better than the Vikings, but I mean they keep winning games. So
Yeah, that's all the ones I've written down that I could find. Shaq Leonard and Devin White and the Bryce Young being in a perfect situation just cracked me up. When I read that, I was like, "Oh my God."
I got one from the Bengals this season. I mean, I was high on the Bengals going into the season, and I said that I absolutely loved the additions of Von Bell and especially Geno Stone from Baltimore. I think Geno Stone's been rated one of like the worst safeties in the NFL
Yeah.
so far this season, so that wasn't great. I had Jonathan Brooks winning my O'Roy for the NFC South. He hasn't really played, so it doesn't really count. We both, I don't, I mean, I hated Bo Nix a lot coming out of college. I wrote that he looked good in his first preseason game. He could finally win Heisman. I made fun of his average depth of target, but he looks phenomenal, and we'll talk about him in a little bit. But he looks really good.
I hate to. I know we're not doing best takes here, but when you mentioned the Bengals, I had to go back and check my Bengals notes here. It was perfect. I said they're not going to be able to run the ball, and their defense is horrible. No secondary. I mean, that's exactly what happened with the Bengals. But no, that's all I have for my bad takes. I'm sure there's a shit ton more that I left out, but
Yeah, I'm sure there's a ton that I've said that I don't know, but these are just the ones that I can find written
yeah, that
down.
can find in writing. I'm sure if we went through every single episode, we'd have an endless list of takes that ended up bad.
Yeah, I mean, on my honorable mentions from last year for AFC South, Calvin Ridley as potential offensive player of the year.
Ooh.
That didn't work out. Yeah, there's got to be a ton in here.
Oh, once again, we're not doing good takes, but I had to look when I was looking at my notes from last year. I was all of my division awards for the most part were just completely just horrible, just like not even close to what happened. Obviously, Shaq, Devin White, all those. But I'm pretty sure. Let me know what you think about this. I think my NFC North awards. I think I might have went 5 for 5. Maybe not D Boy, but I had O'Roy Gibbs. It's fine. D Roy Branch. That's probably right. Opoy Golf. Depoy Jair. MVP Justin Jefferson. That might have been perfect.
Yeah,
I don't know about
that
Jair, maybe, but
had to be pretty good, I'd say.
Bears fans would probably say Montez Sweat there, but that obviously didn't work out well for him.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good. I was pretty similar. I had Depoy's Lucas Van Ness, so
Yeah, what even really happened to him? Is he even playing
I
anymore?
think he's just kind of just an average player.
Yeah, first round pick though. Okay, that's about it then, unless you have any more.
I think that's all I got.
All right, cool. So we'll move on then to what is it? College football. We got to talk about rivalry week 14. A lot of stuff happened. You want me to start us off, or do you want to?
Sure. You can start us off.
All right, I just got a few games here I wanted to talk about specifically. We'll start with Georgia Tech, 8 overtimes. What a phenomenal game that was. Georgia down 17-0 in this game. They looked pretty dead in the water. It looked like it was going to be over for them. I even think they were down 2 touchdowns with like 4 minutes left, but they find a way to come back and they win in a crazy overtime game where no one wanted to run the ball late. Georgia was about to sell for the SEC and blow everything up, and they got lucky and they survived, and they still have a really good chance of getting that bye. Who else here? Colorado takes care of business against Oklahoma State. Who, for some reason, who is the Big 12 championship? For some reason, I can't remember.
Arizona State, Iowa
Iowa
State,
State. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, Colorado, man. Whew, that loss to Kansas was
and yeah,
everything. Um, IU beats Purdue in a barn burner, 66 nothing. Let's see. Oh, of course. Michigan beats Ohio State 13-10. That was crazy. Um, I obviously did not see that coming. I know you're probably going to use this it somehow to build up IU strength of schedule. Just figured you'd do that.
disagree.
Um, but I get maybe it makes their loss to Ohio State even worse. So I guess it kind of goes both ways. But
I think it's just
um,
Ohio State is soft.
yeah, Ohio State's soft. Michigan found a way to beat them. Obviously, there was a fight at the end of the game. Ohio State's going to be fine. I see a lot of people online uh, getting up in arms about where they're going to be, and if Ohio State gets a home playoff game, we're going to lose it. Blah blah blah. This, that, and the other. But we'll see. I think they probably still will get a home playoff game. We're once again recording on Tuesday night, so we're not going to know the college football playoff active poll right now, unfortunately. But do you know what day we get the bracket? Is it Sunday?
I think it would have to still be next Tuesday. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's Sunday because you want to let teams know
Yeah,
who
I
they're
think it
actually
will be
playing.
because it was a year ago today when they released the Final Four and Florida State was out. That was a year ago today, so that would put it on a Sunday
Yeah,
or a Monday, maybe.
it could be Monday. Are
It
there
could
any
still be
games?
Tuesday.
Are
Maybe
there any
last year was a
games on
leap year.
Sunday? I
I
don't
don't
think it's
know.
Tuesday. Let's see. Are there any Sunday games? No, it's all Saturday and Friday and a couple Friday games. I think it's gonna be Sunday. I'm pretty sure it's Sunday. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Sunday. Regardless, we'll know then, so we'll be able to talk about. We'll have a full bracket to look at. But let me just finish talk about a couple more games here before we eventually get into the what we how we feel about the bracket and the current situations because I'm sure that'll take a while. But Texas gets it done over A&M. There was another fight in that game. Big win for Texas. They hold themselves in the SEC championship against Georgia now. They get a rematch of a game they lost in Austin earlier on in the year. A&M was not going to be a team who we really wanted to see in the playoff. I think they're a good team, but I think every team that's going to make the playoff is better than them, and I'm happy they didn't somehow steal a win at home. Penn State, they go down 7-0 to Maryland, and then they put up 44 straight points to clinch their spot in the Big Ten title game. Notre Dame does the job across the country in Southern California, beating USC, probably putting themselves as the top non-bye in the college football playoff. And then the most really impactful game I got, well, there's a couple more, but I'll leave those for you. Miami, they lose to Syracuse, 42-38 in Syracuse in the Dome. That's a massive win for the Syracuse team, who we talked about earlier on in the year with Kyle McCord as being a good football team, and they have been. And they go and they beat this Miami team. They take them out of the playoff or out of the ACC uh, conference championship game, and they put Clemson in there, so it's going to be Clemson against SMU. This is a situation we really have to talk about because this is a very impactful one. Does Miami still get in if Clemson loses the ACC title game, or is there going to only be one ACC team? Or if Clemson wins, do they still put SMU in? I think they probably do, but we don't really know. So it's going to be interesting. An ACC conference that looked like they were probably going to get two in no matter what last week is now at risk of only getting one in.
Yeah, definitely at risk. SMU and the ACC, they took care of business. They'll be in the championship. And like you said, Clemson loses to South Carolina and yet still finds their way into the championship for Miami losing to Syracuse. They went up early big. They looked like they were rolling, and then Syracuse just got going. The Miami defense hurts them again, and Kyle McCord played great. Miami's offense was good, just they got outdueled. Syracuse wins it at home. A rough loss. It's going to be really hard to say how they view the ACC at this point. With I mean, if Clemson wins, I don't know if Miami gets in anyways. It's going to be tough. It'll be almost between them and South Carolina, and South Carolina has a win over Clemson, so that's a rough one. Yeah, Clemson, South Carolina. South Carolina pulls away late, touchdown by Lenore Sellers with 1 minute and 8 seconds left. That was huge. He was good in this game. It was a pretty defensive battle all game, but South Carolina was able to get it done late. Sellers receiving and rushing has been great for them. And Kate Klubnik struggled again, but he finds himself in a chance for an ACC championship, and Clemson can get in no matter what at this point. Going back to the SEC, you talked about Georgia Tech. Georgia, I didn't think they had it. I thought they were going to lose, but they find a way in 8 overtimes to get it done. Really rough loss for Georgia Tech. They have some good, great games this season. They have, what's their big win? Is it? Yes,
Miami.
Miami. Yeah,
Yeah.
Miami was their big win. They almost have a second one here just a couple weeks later against Georgia. Uh, just an unfortunate loss for them. Iowa State, Kansas State. Iowa State gets it done, finds themselves in the Big 12 the Big 12 championship. Good for them. It's going to be pretty much whoever wins that game is in, and whoever loses probably not. I wish I had made a bracket so I could look at what we're looking at right now. With Penn
That's what I'm
State,
trying to draw up right now.
yeah. You touched on it, the Michigan Ohio State game. Just an embarrassing loss, probably the most embarrassing loss for Ohio State in this rivalry almost all time. You have a highly paid roster here with all the guys they brought back to beat this Michigan team, and they just looked soft. Ryan Day looked soft. They didn't actually have fight until after the game when Michigan was going to plant their flag, which was a disrespectful move by Michigan. But as Ohio State, you guys didn't look good at all. You looked soft, and you finally tried to do something after the game. You should have done something during the game. Of course, Michigan played the victim and acted like Ohio State was just being sore losers, but Michigan would have done the same thing if it was on their turf. So the Big Ten championship then will be Oregon Penn State. That loss for Ohio State drops them out 10-2 now with two losses in the Big Ten. They most likely still make the playoff. It'll be interesting to see if they get a home game. Right now, the four byes are looking like Oregon for the Big Ten, Texas, and the SEC, who picks up a huge win against Texas A&M, like you said. SMU out of the ACC, and then Boise State being the fourth highly ranked team at 11-1 out of the Mountain West. After that, you got Penn State and Notre Dame. Notre Dame doesn't have any more games before the playoffs, so most likely if Penn State loses, they slide up to that 5 seed. If Penn State wins, that'll be very interesting to see what happens there. If Oregon would drop to 5 or if they would drop farther down with really only one big quality win against Ohio State. Then you got Georgia at 7. They have another game against Texas, which is huge. They could find themselves in that top 4. 8, Tennessee, then 9, Ohio State, 11, Indiana, or 10, Indiana, 9, Ohio State. And then at 11 and 12, it's got Alabama and Arizona. So we could potentially see an Alabama 3-loss team in the college football playoff.
Yeah, there's a possibility. I'm drawing it up right now how I see it. Hold on.
I do feel like, in terms of Alabama versus South Carolina, I feel like South Carolina's losses are all close losses. I mean, Alabama, I guess they have the head to head?
Alabama does. So
Yeah.
it's
So
tough. It's tough to put South Carolina over Bama,
yeah.
unfortunately. Head to head.
But you look at
In
a
South
couple of
Carolina too.
yeah, and South Carolina was very close to winning that game though. And then all
They
of their
were.
losses have been incredibly close. Where you look at Bama and they have just got blown out by Oklahoma in a really bad loss to Vanderbilt. So
They have a Georgia win though.
they have a Georgia win, yes. South Carolina has a Clemson win.
Yeah, Georgia wins worth more though.
Yeah.
Especially if they win the
But the
SEC.
team that Bama team was playing very good at that time, where in these recent weeks this Bama team hasn't been playing as good as they were in that moment.
So here's what I've drawn up. I've drawn up because the chaos scenario really probably comes if Clemson wins and
Yeah.
they find themselves as a bye, which would be crazy if after this season Clemson as a 3-loss team gets a bye. But let's say wins. So I think at that point you have assuming that Oregon wins because I honestly don't see Penn State beating Oregon. I just don't see it. So assuming Oregon wins, you have Oregon and then whoever wins that SEC title game. Boise State I think gets the 3 at that point, and then the 4 would be Clemson with 3 losses. You following?
Yeah.
Okay, so 5, Notre Dame. I think they say 5. SEC loser, I think, slides in at 6. Oh my God, I forgot Ohio State. Okay,
I don't think
okay.
Ohio State is going to be in the top six, though.
I agree. So let's go six, SEC loser, seven, Penn State, eight, Ohio State,
Do you put Ohio State
nine.
below Penn State, though, with a head to head?
You said what?
Do you put Ohio State below Penn State with a head to head win?
That's where it gets complicated.
It's all going to decide on how they view like head to head versus losses. Because I mean, Ohio
You're
State
right.
has worse losses, but the head to head is there. They're going to have to stay
But also Penn
consistent
State
with
would have
them.
one loss if they. You're right. They're gonna have to stay consistent. I think here you do go Penn State because Penn State played in the title game. They had to play an extra game.
That's true.
So I think here is where you don't take head to head into account. I think you go Penn State, Ohio State, Tennessee, then IU at 10. The 11 seed would be the Big 12 winner, and then the 12 seed is either SMU, Miami, Alabama, or South Carolina.
Yeah.
And
And
I think you
whoever doesn't
probably have to
make it
go
cannot
SMU there,
complain.
right? You said what?
And whoever doesn't make it, I don't want to hear them complaining at all in that last spot.
Yeah, because I mean, none of them are truly that worthy of it.
Hmm.
So in that scenario, if Clemson wins, which I honestly I think SMU is going to win, we'd get at Notre Dame versus either Miami, Alabama, South Carolina, or Clemson or SMU, which is all good games. Then we get SEC loser versus Big 12 champ, Penn State IU. I like that matchup for IU possibly, and then Ohio State Tennessee. I like
I
that.
like that matchup for Ohio State.
Yeah, I do as well. I do as
Um,
well.
Tulane lost this week, right? I'm trying to find the score.
It's so annoying that we're recording this right before the new bracket comes
Yeah, I
out because
know.
we'd have a much better.
Yes. Okay. Oh, they played on Thursday. That's why I couldn't find it. Yeah, Tulane lost this week, so that takes them out of any consideration for a potential top five conference if they were to get a higher seed than any of the ACC teams. So
Wait,
because they
what do
were
you?
up there. Because
Wait, what are you saying?
if Tulane would have won out, beat Army next week, they could have potentially been like a 14, but ahead of they could have been a top five conference champion.
But they don't fit in that build, right?
No, they do. It's just any top five. I'm pretty sure.
Is it?
I thought so.
Hmm.
Or maybe it's over if Boise lost. I don't know.
I think well, if Boise lost, then they're the team to get in, right? But I don't see Boise losing at this point.
UNLV is very good, but I don't either.
UNLV is good. I do agree with that. I'm trying to see here what it would be though if let's say SMU does win. Does that kill all the drama? You still have, I think SMU moves up to 3 then, and Boise falls into the 4.
Hmm.
I think you still get Notre Dame at 5. I think you still get the SEC loser at 6. Still get Penn State at 7. Ohio State still 8. Tennessee. Honestly, I'm cool with Tennessee or IU flipping.
I
I really don't. That
yeah,
that doesn't bother
Tennessee,
me.
IU, and then there's two spots for
You Big 12
yeah.
winner
Big
at
12 gets
11
one, and then it's between those same group of teams though.
minus SMU. Then it's between South Carolina, Bama, and Miami. Which, oh my God, those 3 fan bases going at it would be
Yeah,
unbelievable. That would be unbelievable.
and the hottest team out of those though is South Carolina.
Right. Who do you take there? I
You
know who
mean
I
like
take. Who I would put in.
I'd put in South Carolina.
I put in Alabama.
Yeah,
I don't think it can be Miami, even with Miami only having 2 losses and those two having 3. I mean, what's Miami's strength of schedule? It can't be high, and their losses are worse.
yeah. Georgia Tech and Syracuse's losses.
Oh, how about let's do this? Strength of record. Who has a better strength of record? Wait, who are we comparing here? Alabama, South
Miami
Carolina.
and South
Oh,
Carolina.
they're all neck and neck. Bama's 10, South Carolina 11, Miami 14. So they're all right there. Strength of schedule, Bama 17, South Carolina 15, Miami 55. Yeah, Miami, sorry, you're done. You're done at 55. I think it's between Bama and South Carolina there. Unless they want to get the electric quarterback in the playoff, which also is a possibility.
Yeah.
I'm
Just
liking these scenarios.
yeah. There's so much.
What's the chaos scenario? What fucks everything up?
What messes everything up? I mean, does a Georgia loss affect them with three losses?
No, because they're still going to get in over all those teams that are on the bubble.
But I think that would put them. I think they'd lose a home game. I don't know.
Home game's the top 5 through 8, right?
Yeah, I think that could kick them out of a home game. I don't
You
think
think you
that's not
think
chaos though.
you think with a loss they fall below two loss Penn State and two loss Ohio State
Yeah, that's tough
with
because they're in the
losses
chain. It's
to
just they.
Texas,
I've heard
Bama.
Ward Manuel said that the conference champion people are going to be held to a higher. They get a plus for it. So
For making it, even
for
if you
making
lose.
it,
Right.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You can't
I think
it's
chaos scenario is Boise losing.
yeah, I agree. Because then
Does UNLV just come in, or does we get a
UNLV gets in at the 12 probably.
and then the Big 12 gets a bye?
And then the Big 12 gets a bye. Yeah.
Wow.
I think that's what happens. And honestly, I wish I wish they could take the conference champions and just actually sort them how they want to. Because let's be real here. I love Boise State. I'm taking Arizona State in that head to head all day. I am.
I'm taking Boise.
Really.
I mean, Boise went neck and neck with Oregon.
They did, but you said yourself that was early on in the season.
It was
And Oregon played Idaho close early in the season.
too. I still don't
Like
think I don't think Oregon wins it. I might sound crazy here, but I'm looking at Notre Dame, and I think they got a good shot.
they're one of my favorites. I'm thinking about putting a future on them.
I'm
They
thinking about it
always
as
let
well.
everyone down though. They always
They
do.
do, but there's not like usually when Notre Dame loses in like the college football playoff, they get dominated. There's not a team in this field that can just dominate Notre Dame.
I agree. I'm gonna look at the futures here because I actually am curious looking at that now. I'm not gonna place it. I'm gonna wait till the bracket comes out to place a future. I think you're crazy if you don't. But let's
I mean,
see
Notre
who's
Dame would probably be good now because
Notre Dame plus 800 is good odds.
I mean they're in no matter what. There's no way Notre Dame falls out. They
Yeah.
can't lose, can't win.
Oh, let's see what the if the odds suggest that our thoughts are right. Yeah. Yeah, there's also oh wow, don't look have you looked yet?
No,
There's two teams we didn't name that still have odds to win the championship. Two teams that doesn't include UNLV or any of the teams playing in their major conference title games. So Iowa State's in there, UNLV's in there, Clemson's in there.
I really hope it's not like Ole Miss.
That's one of them.
Okay, if Ole Miss makes it, that's just
And there's one other team who's
um,
plus 100,000 to win.
uh, um, it's got to probably be an SEC team.
No, it's a group of five team. It's an American conference team.
It's not Army.
It's Army.
Wow, they still have odds. That's
It's all the
crazy.
teams we named and that
I
are
think
playing in their conference title game or already are going to get in, and then Miami, Ole Miss, Army.
I think their only hope then is that Boise State gets blown out, Army dominates the rest of their games, and they steal the bid from Boise and UNLV.
But what do you mean the rest of their games? They're over. Is Army not? Army has to be in the conference in their championship, right? There's no way
Yeah,
they aren't. They
if
wouldn't have
their
odds.
odds are there.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
no way they're not. Yeah, they're playing Tulane, so they have to beat Tulane and
trying to dominate them.
dominate Tulane, and UNLV beats Boise in a close game,
I want to look it up
and then
now.
they have to go on to beat every team in the playoffs.
College
But
football
these
playoff
odds are
odds.
interesting. These odds are
Yeah,
telling.
it doesn't. It's the five highest ranked conference champions. So even if Boise wins, say, I mean, Iowa State wouldn't probably fall that far. They could still jump that Big 12 champion and get in over the Big 12 champion.
Correct.
So the Big
Correct.
12 could not have a team at all if something happens that's absurd.
Oh, you're saying Big 12 loses and you get what's the fifth bye then? Or the fifth
It would
champion?
like I'm saying like Army, if Army were to like win out
Oh,
and jump the Big 12 teams.
yeah, I
But
guess that's
I don't think that's
possible.
possible because
Unlikely.
I think
Very unlikely.
both the Big 12 teams are kind of in, or
But
at
I'm
least
look
one of them, whoever wins.
I don't know if you've seen the odds now, but Alabama has the eighth best odds to win the championship. They're getting in the playoff. Almost certainly they're getting in now. It makes me think with South Carolina at plus 7,000 and Miami at plus 25,000 that it's going to be Bama. And our good friend Sarb is a Miami fan, and he was talking on online last night about how he thinks they're going to sneak in as long as Clemson doesn't win. I don't think that's the case. Looking at 25,000, they have
Yeah.
the same odds as UNLV to win the title.
Yeah, I'm looking at him now. Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
I can't believe, man, Alabama that high is. I wouldn't take Alabama's odds even at plus 1600 though.
No, I wouldn't. They're 19 on DraftKings, but I wouldn't either. I'm just saying that me looking at their odds there tells me that they're probably going to get in that last spot, if not higher. And
Yeah,
who
which is
knows,
crazy
dude?
with
Even if
those
like if we get a
rough
Texas
losses.
blowout, if Texas loses in a blowout,
There's
I
no way
mean,
Texas can fall out.
they're not going to fall out, no. But there's a lot of these teams that could fall, and one of these bubble teams that we're talking about maybe sneaks up a couple spots. I mean, if
Yeah,
Iowa State wins,
again, we'll know in unfortunately like 3 hours.
I mean, I'm looking at it here, and I like Iowa State. We liked them at parts of the year. There's parts of the year where they've looked garbage, like absolute garbage. I even three-loss Alabama. I'm probably putting Alabama above a Big 12 champion Iowa State. I probably am.
I can't even count that far, but I'm looking at Iowa State on the power index. I guess they're ahead of Arizona State, but they're still that looks like they're about like 20th or something, maybe lower.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors to play out here, but the main things that we know are true are one, all the IU controversy was for nothing because they're guaranteed in now.
Hmm.
We also see a team that legitimately no one is talking about and is just going to get in for I honestly can't even argue why because I mean I guess they beat Bama but Tennessee like no one's saying I haven't heard a peep about Tennessee. No one's even talking about Tennessee. They're going to get in. I don't think anyone expects them to win if they get in, but they're going to be in. I don't think Ohio State has anything to worry about despite losing. All of the winners and losers of the Big 10 and the SEC are going to be in. And of course, whoever wins that group of 5 is in, and the Big 12 winner. So it's just going to come down to do we get multiple ACC teams or do we get Alabama? That's it. And I think we're going to get Alabama.
Yeah, and if we get Bama, would that be five SEC teams or just four?
Of course, I just closed it.
I just had it
It
pulled
would
up.
be
We're in
one,
Texas, Georgia, Tennessee.
2, 3, 4. It'd be 4.
Okay, so we get Bama, then it's four SEC, four Big Ten, Mountain
Is it 4 Big
West.
Ten? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's 8. One Big 12 is 9. Notre Dame non-conference is 10. Boise State 11, and then one ACC team at 12. Yeah.
Wait, what am I
You
missing?
happy with four SEC teams?
Four Big Ten, four SEC, one Mountain West, one Big 12,
One
one
ACC.
non-conference, one ACC. Yeah.
I like it. Balanced. I mean, this is what we expected with the 12 team. Anybody that's mad that there's too many Big 10 or SEC teams, like, it's your problem. There's going to be minimum 3 of each. It's just what happens. I don't know if people like I don't know. What do people want? Do they want to see fucking Tulane sneak in and get their ass kicked by Georgia? Is that what they want to see?
Low key.
Like
They
who
get
wants
a
to see that? It would be
even if
it's sick to get those teams in, but you can't have too many of them.
yeah. The 12 seed no matter what doesn't get a home game, right?
No.
Even if they're the conference champion.
No.
That's what I thought.
9, 10, 11, 12 don't get home games.
I'll say, 'cause if you're Arizona State, do you almost want to just get a home game to get a chance to win or get a bye and get stomped on a neutral site?
What do you mean?
Because I mean, if Boise State loses, the Big 12 could jump into the top four
You're saying they wouldn't
and
want
get a
the
bye.
bye?
I mean, like if like you're a fan at the school, what would you want if they were
Oh,
to
I'd
have
want
a
the
chance
bye
at a
all
home game?
day.
But
Arizona
now I'd
State
want a
is
bye.
not a team to be fucked with.
No, they're
People are
good.
doubting them. They're a good team.
They're a good
Cam
team.
Skadibo is good. He's really good.
Yeah, and so is Sam Levitt, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Former Spartan.
I don't I wouldn't be concerned about Iowa State doing any damage if they won.
Yeah.
Arizona State I can, especially like I mean, as I bring the notebook out once again. Um if they got in, they'd get a if they got the bye, they'd get the fourth bye. So They would play the winner of
Notre
how does that
Dame.
work in the bracket? Oh, Notre Dame and Bama probably. Notre Dame Bama in the first round would be wild. That would be wild. That worries me a bit
That's a
about the
nightmare
Notre Dame future.
scenario for Notre
Yeah,
Dame.
yeah, you don't want that.
Although I think Notre Dame would probably be 11 and then the Big 12 winner 12.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like
Oh,
the
you mean
Big 12.
Alabama would be 11 and
I think most likely Alabama's if this, in this scenario Alabama's 11, Big 12 winners 12, Notre Dame's 5, Boise State's 4.
so Notre Dame gets Arizona State in the first round,
And see, this is perfect. They
and
would
then
if
Boise
Notre
State in the
Dame could
second
get
round.
Arizona State and Boise State to get to the Final Four. I think that's
Yeah,
perfect
and
for
then
Notre
they
Dame.
get Oregon,
And I think they beat Oregon.
Arizona State, Boise State, Oregon, Georgia. Ain't
Yeah,
bad.
it's not a bad route. I
I mean,
think they're kind of.
having to be on the side of the one seed is tough, but
I just
Oregon
don't
isn't
think
perfect.
Oregon isn't that massive of a one seed. I'm not.
No, I'm with you. I agree. There's no way I'm putting my money on Oregon to win, and I think they have one of the best chances to win. But at 350, I don't think they should be that big of a favorite. And Texas at 400, who's betting that?
Yeah,
Who the hell is betting Texas to win at plus 400? Now Georgia at plus 475. Give me that all day. Notre Dame at 800. I'm gonna take that. And those will probably be my two futures. Am I crazy for thinking Ohio State still has a good chance though?
no, I don't think. I mean, Ohio State just is. They're just. They're haunted by Michigan.
And they don't have to play Michigan.
Yeah, if Michigan was in the tournament, they might be screwed, but they're not.
People forget Ohio State should have won that game in Oregon a couple months ago. They should have
Yeah,
won that game.
and if you look at last season, they lost to Michigan, went to the playoff, and they looked good in that playoff game.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
Should have
telling you,
should have
man.
won it, but Marvin Harrison got injured.
If there's, I'm gonna write this down so I don't forget it. But I like
Oh wait, no,
Georgia.
I'm thinking 2 years ago. I'm thinking 2 years.
I like Georgia, Notre Dame, and possibly Ohio State as decent futures. You got any sneaky ones here you
I like Notre Dame.
like IU plus 4K?
No, I like SMU to maybe steal a win if they don't get a bye. If they somehow sneak in like a, I don't know actually. I just like the SMU team in general.
Oh, to make playoffs is odds on here too. Oh, this is exactly what we're looking for. Alabama's minus 250 to make the playoff.
Yeah,
That should tell you everything you didn't know. But also they're including this being what they believe is to win everybody to win their games. So Oregon's minus 170. Oh yeah, the only way they wouldn't be the one seed is if they lost. Penn State's plus 320. So you're telling me if Penn State beats Oregon, no matter what happens in the SEC title game, Penn State would be the one seed?
I kind of think so.
If Georgia goes and beats Texas
If Texas wins, then I think Texas is the
and needs,
one.
yeah, I think if Oregon loses, it has to be an SEC team.
No.
Penn
There's
State is the
there's
one
no
seed.
way a one-loss Penn State team would fall below a three-loss or a
Two loss Georgia
two-loss Georgia team.
or one
I don't
loss
know.
Texas. I
I
guess,
think a
and Penn
one-loss
State's only
Texas
loss will be Ohio
jumps.
State too.
Yeah. I think Penn State's one if Georgia beats Texas. If Texas wins and Oregon loses, Texas is one.
Yeah, yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right.
Although that game was in Penn State.
The Ohio State game
Yeah.
and Georgia's two losses are Bama and who's their second loss?
Georgia's,
Yeah,
Bama,
Ole Miss, Bama,
and
and Ole
Ole
Miss.
Miss. Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. Penn State gets the one seed there. And honestly, there'd even be an argument for uh for Penn State over Texas. I wouldn't say that. I would say Texas should get the one because they'd have the win over Georgia. But there's an argument there. Better.
Texas would have been avenging its one loss, though.
True though. That's right. That would be avenging their one loss. But yeah, it's about starting to talk in circles. Now it's about all I got. We're gonna just find out more information here soon. I am excited as hell. Everybody who hated on the 12 team playoff, including you at times, can fuck off. It is the best time of the year now. This is fantastic.
See,
This is
the craziest
fantastic.
thing though is this would actually be a good year for a 14 playoff.
For a 14?
Where, yeah, where
Yeah,
last
probably.
year it was just so unfortunate that Florida State had to not make it being
Would there be a
undefeated.
debate?
No,
There still
I
would be.
think
There still would be because Boise wouldn't be there.
yeah, it would be just a top four then.
It'd be the Big Ten winner, the SEC winner, Notre Dame, and then there would be a debate for the four. That's what would happen.
There'd be a debate for the four, but I mean, it wouldn't be as bad as last season.
Yeah, right.
A no Power Five undefeated team had ever missed, and
I stand by it. I
I think it was the
stand
right
by it.
call. It's a terrible call, and that's why none of the teams who miss it this year can be offended at all.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I agree. They're going to be 100% going to be. And if I remember correctly, they are moving it to 16, right?
Oh,
I'm
I don't
almost
think so.
positive they're going to move it to 16. 12 is only for a few years, I think. Having to do
I haven't
this
heard
like
anything
mental
about
math
that.
with like 3 weeks left in the season next year with 16 teams.
Yeah, I've never heard anything about a 16 team playoff.
Maybe it's just something I thought I
I
heard. Is
think they
that
considered it.
oh is it happening? I could have sworn it was happening.
I don't see anything about it.
Maybe.
16 would, I mean, that'd just be letting too many non.
Yeah, I mean, it would also be 8 games in the first week, in one
Yeah.
week of college football playoff. That would be electric.
That'd be cool because then you could actually have teams like Tulane and Army in it just
But
to
they,
get a chance.
but still,
If you expand it to 16, you
guys
have
like
to
me
put
would be
those in.
around there arguing a four-loss SEC team
Yeah,
over
no,
over Tulane. I would be
no.
doing it.
If you do 16, then you have to put those teams in there.
16 would be great this year.
Or like a MAC team.
It would be phenomenal this year. But your point of saying those teams will get in, it wouldn't work. They would have to have a mandate for them to get in because this year it would be Bama, South Carolina, Miami, Clemson,
I mean, each
probably.
year though, there's just one team that sneaks its way. Like Boise State this year,
Yeah,
they're having a
yeah,
great year.
true. But
MAC teams have had. I mean, Northern Illinois has been good for a couple of years. Western Michigan had their time.
how
Buffalo.
high ranked is Boise State though? They're 11. So if they didn't have that mandate, they would be right on the bubble. And
I think they'd be in.
if they lost, then there would be no group of 5 teams,
Yeah,
which is crazy.
interesting.
But yeah, that's about it. I kind of hope Clemson loses. I don't want to see Clemson in the playoff. I
Me
don't.
neither.
And that Syracuse coach uh sucking off Dabo Sweeney after the
Yeah. I
Atlanta
didn't get
game. It was crazy.
the shower quote at first until I realized that he
Yeah,
doesn't shower after losing.
yeah, he doesn't, which is crazy,
Yeah.
wild. But
Does he go the whole week or is it just a day?
I feel like it has to be just a day. I kind of
Yeah.
like that though, honestly. Like, the Dabo thing was weird to me, but that's actually it's kind of a good shtick. I like it.
Yeah.
I
As
mean,
long as it's not just as long as it's just one day.
yeah, and as long as it doesn't affect me either. But
Yeah.
we can move on then to our Monday Night Football recap. I wish we were coming on here to talk about a Jameis Winston masterclass and a win. Unfortunately, we're
It
just
was a
talking.
Jameis Winston
We're yeah.
masterclass.
Unfortunately, we're just talking about a Jameis Winston masterclass. 500 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 2 pick sixes. This is the game where if my children ask me what the Jameis Winston experience is like, this is the exact game I'm pointing to. 500 passing yards, throws almost as many touchdowns as picks, multiple pick sixes where he just goes back on the field and then drives down and scores a touchdown. Just unbelievable stuff. Uh, he is going to go down as probably one of my favorite quarterbacks of this era. Just as a person, I just think he's great. Every interview I watch of him, he's just fantastic. I love Jameis. Who wouldn't want Jameis? So I hope he continues to get these chances and we can continue to have Jameis because he's not the worst quarterback starting right now in the NFL. He's not. He's
No.
absolutely not. I would have to go like specifically into
I
detail
think
with
he
bigger
has to be
guys.
top 32.
Oh, he's for sure top 32. No, he's better than all 3 of the Giants quarterbacks, including Daniel Jones.
Hmm.
So there's 3 right there.
Give him Malik Neighbors. Ooh.
Yeah, honestly, dude. Honestly. Well, I mean, he's killing it with Jerry Judy. Unfortunately, I can't think of any more off the top of my head that he's better than. But shit.
I mean, Will
We'll
Levis
just move
maybe?
on from that.
Will Levis maybe?
Yeah, he's probably better than Will Levis. Richardson.
I'm not putting him over Richardson. Um,
um,
I can if I can just look at like a picture of the teams, it'd be a lot easier.
Dare I say Aaron Rodgers? Dare I say?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I take him over the Raiders quarterbacks.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would take him over the Raiders quarterbacks for sure.
Um,
That's probably where it ends though, because nobody in the North.
Derek Carr. I'd take Derek Carr, I
I'd
think.
probably take Derek Carr,
Sam
but we
Darnold,
can't
probably
do
Sam
that. We
Darnold.
can't say that though. After we ripped Dennis Allen last year for
Oh,
not
that's
putting
true.
him in
Yeah,
over Derek Carr, we can't both be like, yeah, I'll take Derek Carr over him.
that's true.
Probably nobody in the South. Kirk Cousins maybe, um, and nobody in the West. Definitely not nobody in the West. But regardless, Jameis gets it done here. They couldn't really run the ball here at all. Nine catch. I mean, these stats are just ridiculous. 9 for 235 for Jared Judy. 9 for 52 for Njoku. 8 for 111 for Elijah Moore is just absurd. Of course, he throws 3 picks and it bites him in the ass, but whatever. The Broncos defense, I don't know if I've ever seen this before. The Broncos defense had multiple touchdowns and 3 interceptions and still finished with just like 12 fantasy points because they gave up so many yards and points in this game. But Bo Nix, he throws a couple picks in this one, uncharacteristic, but he follows the game script. His team defense helps him out with a couple touchdowns. He still throws for 300. Broncos move to 8-5 now. They're gonna have a winning season. Him and Cortland Sutton are really building a good connection. I like this Broncos team a lot. They're great defensively, and that's even more why this Jameis performance is so impressive. He threw for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns against one of the best secondaries in football. Super impressive to see that from him. He does throw the ball 60 times in this game, which is ridiculous. But regardless, I hope we get to continue to see Jameis Winston play football. I love watching him play football. I'm not going to take it for granted. And if this is the last time we ever see him in prime time, it was special.
Yeah, back-to-back weeks with special performances in prime time from Jameis Winston. He just does it all. I think this was his second game with 2 pick sixes and like more than 4 touchdowns. He's an incredible watch. Threw it like you said 58 times, which if you need he's considered a backup considering they lost their starter. I'd take him above Deshaun Watson too.
Absolutely.
Having to have your backup throw 58 times usually isn't the recipe for success, and he still threw for almost 500 yards. Got Jerry Judy 235 receiving yards. I think Jerry Judy's up to, I want to say he's at least top 10. Yeah, he's tied for fifth in receiving yards now in the entire season.
Actually,
Yeah,
wow.
which
Wow.
is absurd.
And
Jameis
Deshaun
Winston.
Watson threw for like 100 yards a game for the first like six
Yeah,
weeks of the season
well,
too.
Jerry Judy had more yards this game than Deshaun Watson had thrown in any game this season. So,
That's absurd.
yeah.
Also, another stat: the Browns are the best passing team in football since Jameis took over. Just a fact in yards per game.
Yeah. You can't dispute facts. He can
Yeah,
throw the
they
football.
don't care about your feelings.
He can turn the ball over, but I mean, he put up 32 points against a great defense. He did give it was 32-14 if we only considered Jameis Winston in the game. Kadarius Toney's on the Browns. I actually didn't know that, but he did get a target in this game.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know that until I was looking at the box score here. Nick Chubb finds the end zone in the receiving game. Jameis Winston, like you said, he throws an interception, pick six, and then the next drive he can come back and just drive down the field for a touchdown. He also can throw a pick six, drive all the way down the field, and then throw like the worst interception you've ever seen. He can do it all, and he better play out the rest of the season for the Browns. There's no reason for them to start anybody else, and hopefully we're guaranteed at least 4 more games to Jameis Winston.
If he can, and it's wild to be saying this. What a rate! Almost 10 years into his career now, which is crazy to say. I just remember when he was a rookie. 10 years into his career, and I still feel the need to be like, if he can clean up a couple of the interceptions, like he's going to be able to figure it out. I know he hasn't been able to figure that out in a decade, but I mean, the dude can go out there and sling the rock.
I
There's
mean, he
no
was
doubt
a
about it.
yeah, he was about to cover the spread there late, and then he threw the just like one of the worst interceptions you've ever
Yeah,
seen.
yeah, yeah. All three were bad. All three interceptions
Yeah,
were bad picks. Like just
yeah.
ducks he threw.
Well, one of them was a great play. I can't remember the cornerback, but it was a great
It was
catch
a
and
great
he
play, but it
returned
was
for a
still a
touchdown.
duck. It was still a duck. It was the last
Yeah,
one or the second to last one.
but if he does, I mean, sometimes the ducks are touchdowns for him, so
Yeah,
he's gonna sling it.
that's true. But we can move on now to our week 14 preview. We'll start with the buys with the Broncos that we just spoke of. Good time for a buy for them. They have to go into this back half of the season where they're really only competing with like two. other teams for that
Colts
last
and
seed. What?
Colts and Chargers and Broncos for two spots, basically.
Yeah, so I mean, like they just have to not collapse, and they're going to be fine because they have a lead on the Colts. They do play the Colts. If they beat the Colts, they're probably going to be as close to clinching as you can, I would say.
And the AFC will basically be over if they beat the Colts.
Yeah, which is wild to say. At least for the teams in, the order can
Hmm.
be moved, but the teams in, yeah. And then, like we just said, the Colts also they need to win out here, so a good time for a bye week. Of course, you guys got a fucking week 14 bye. So jealous of that. Um, Pats doesn't matter. Commanders, great time for a bye for them. They get healthy. Jaden Daniels desperately needs a week off. They have an Eagles game coming up. They're in a similar situation to the Broncos, where if they just continue to win the games they should and compete in the tougher games, they're gonna make the playoffs. If they can win out and go on a run, they can win the division. It's not out of hand yet, but it's going to be tough for them as they are down 3 games to the Eagles. The Ravens, tough loss against the Eagles last week at home, so a good time for a bye here. They're going to have a Steelers game coming up. That's big. I think they have another Browns game. I think they play every team one more time, so that's big for them. As well as I believe they play the Texans. And then speaking of the Texans, they're the sixth team here with a bye. We've seen their schedule coming up with the Chiefs, the Dolphins, and the Ravens as their next 3 games. So couldn't be a better time for a bye for them. They can get as healthy as they possibly can and get ready for this game. Hopefully figure out those offensive issues in the bye week.
Yeah, Broncos and Colts, they are going to come out of the bye and play each other, so they each get a week to prepare for that game. Going to be huge. Sean Payton's a great coach, so that does worry me that he gets the bye there.
Is
But
that coming right off the bye?
yes,
Oh, so about both teams are going to be coming off a bye. Wow.
yeah, and that's going to be a playoff game. You get a
The
week to
horse battle.
prepare.
The battle of
Yeah,
the horses.
last time these two teams played, it was a classic, just
Yeah.
not in a good way.
Peyton Manning's
Um,
only played for horse teams. That's wild to think about. Maybe it's
yeah,
a
I guess you
fetish. I
could
don't know.
say. Yeah, very interesting. Patriots get a bye. Drake May's been playing very good football recently, so maybe that's rough. But they've had a rough season. But Drake May's been a huge bright spot, so that's great. Commanders, they could use just a chance to get healthy. They're coming off of a huge win where they dominated. And they get a chance to just kind of dwell off that and hopefully get healthy. Ravens as well. They just need to be consistent. Their defense has struggled. The secondary is going to have to get better if they're going to want to make a run in the playoffs. They're going against some good passing teams still in this season, so they got to finish that. Jameis Winston, like you said, the Browns, and then Houston. They just need to figure out what's going on with C.J. Stroud in the offense because right now they're just not clicking. The defense has been great though, so uh, nice to have a Week 14 bye, I guess.
Yeah, not even, I guess. It's just a luxury. All
I
the
mean, sometimes you're in Week 9 and you're missing like half your team, and you're like, man, I could use a bye this week.
That I agree with that. But as far as like we're talking about some of the teams who were complaining about getting week five is ridiculous. Week five is ridiculous, and it bothers me, and I'm sure it bothers other Chiefs fans, and I forget Eagles also had a week 6 bye, I believe. When you see teams like the Ravens and the Texans and the Commanders, like contenders who get their week 14 bye is just ridiculous. It's so dumb. And then the other contenders have to play fucking 20 straight games. It's stupid. I think if you want to do a week 14 bye and a week 5 bye, you're going to have a decent idea of what teams probably aren't competing. And if those teams surprise everybody, then who cares if they get fucked with a bye? But the teams who are favored to win the Super Bowl should not be getting week 5 byes when the other ones get 14. Just stupid. I don't
I
get that at
think
all.
they just spend too long in the season only giving like 14 buys. I think they should just kind of stack them up a little bit more
I
in the middle of
agree.
the
I mean,
season.
there's no reason to do it multiple 6 weeks and multiple 16 weeks and
I
multiple
mean,
zeros.
there was a week with just one. I feel like early in the season,
Well,
like
there's
two, well,
never
two
just
teams. Just I
one.
mean, like
Yeah,
like one game missing,
yeah. There
two
have been
teams.
a couple of those. Yeah, it doesn't. It just doesn't make any sense how they do it. But maybe when they implement the second buy, we can get rid of this problem. But we'll move on here to the first game of the preview with the Packers at Lions Thursday night football. We've gotten blessed with a good amount of good Thursday night football games this year, honestly, which is rare. Of a lot of good divisional games here. This one especially biggest game of the season for Green Bay. They're essentially eliminated from the division race with a loss here. They're not technically eliminated, but it's a tough battle for them not having the tiebreaker with the Lions and being down 3 games. I guess if the Lions completely lose out, maybe, but even then, I think only the Vikings would be able to get it. So they're going to be in a tough spot if they don't win this year. Both teams are coming off of playing last Thursday, so it's even playing fields, weird schedules for both teams. Josh Pascal, Levi Onwuzurike, and Taylor Decker all probably out in this game. Very unfortunate. DJ Reader is questionable. We don't really know about him. Luckily, Mosley and Carlton Davis are playing. Decker is Decker and Carlton Davis, like I've been saying for the past couple of weeks when they've been hurt, are the two most important injured players that can come back. Obviously, not including Hutch in them, but him and Decker, Carlton Davis and Decker. At least we got Davis back because we're gonna need it for the defense. Not having Decker is a serious problem, though. The Lions have struggled in their 3 games they haven't had, or the 2 games they haven't had Decker. That being Houston and Chicago, they won those games by just 3 points each. So they're going to need to get him back ASAP. If he doesn't come back for this game, I would almost guarantee he comes back next week against the Bills, coming off a mini bye. Um, so I guess if you want to rest him, it's fine. If you rest him and get a win, that's perfect. But we'll see what happens. He's a tough son of a bitch, so maybe he does end up playing. But I doubt it at this point. He didn't practice on Tuesday, so both teams are towards the top of the league in takeaways. But Green Bay turns it over a little bit more than the Lions, so the Lions should be able to take advantage of that one. If the Lions didn't have that 5 interception game against Houston, they would be probably number 2 or 3 in turnovers because they just don't turn the ball over really at all. Green Bay has really thrived in games when they could just play bully ball with Jacobs and let it fly. I don't see that being the case in this game, although Jacobs did have an okay game versus Detroit last time. The Lions' edge defenders are going to need to step up against the run, especially with Pascal not being there and possibly not DJ Reader. You're going to need guys like Al-Quadin Muhammad, like Zadarius Smith, who come in there and what?
Just out hearing Al Kadim Muhammad's name threw me off there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's where the Lions are at defensively right now. That's where
Oh
that's where
man,
we're at. We're
I
deep
used
into
to
the
be there,
practice
man.
squad.
I used to be there, man.
You didn't even let me finish my sentence with Jamal Adams also being in this group of guys and David Long Jr. who need to be able to stop the run for the Lions. If they don't have that, they're going to be in trouble. Um, Green Bay is below average offensively and defensively in the red zone. The Lions are the exact opposite, as we know. That's a big time strength of theirs. I'm worried about the Lions linebacker room with just Campbell and practice squad players. Like I said, even though I actually am it's hard not to be intrigued with the Jamal Adams just playing
Yeah.
linebacker because he's good at linebacker and he's a good blitzer too. I can't tell you how many times in the past couple days I've seen the stat on Twitter where it's like he had 9.5 sacks in 2020. It's like, okay, well that was fucking 4 years ago, but
Couple
still,
surgeries ago.
yeah, exactly. But if he can just cover tight ends, that's really all they need him for at this point. And blitz when he has to get to the quarterback. He's I think he can be solid in that role. The problem was he didn't want to sign with a team that only wanted him for linebacker, so he was like, I guess I'm just not playing football. I want to play safety. And now they announced him as a linebacker. They
Hmm.
eventually edited the tweet and made it DB instead of LB, but they announced him as a linebacker at one point. So um we'll see. I think he's going to play mostly linebacker. Lions fans are freaking out right now with all the defensive injuries and all the other top NFC teams and Minnesota, Green Bay, and Philly just never losing. But I think a win here silences that a bit. They get a mini bye before Buffalo comes to town 10 days after. So I feel good about the Lions here. 3.5 pisses me off a bit. Lions have missed, what is it, back-to-back cover? No, they covered against the Colts and the Jags. They've they're 2-2 in their last 4 covering. So maybe they don't cover here. I'm obviously not going to bet against them. I'm going to take them -3.5. They've been great in Green Bay against the Packers. They haven't been as great in Detroit, but I think they're the better team here. I think the Packers have too many flaws, and I think the Lions overcome their injuries and figure it out. 3.5 Lions.
Yeah, that's a pretty close spread for the Lions. We've seen them cover a couple big ones this season. The big stat for me has been that the Packers are 8-0 versus teams that have a record over 500, or have a record of 500 or lower. They are 1-3 versus teams that have a record of over 500. We saw it this time last year. We talked about it a lot about Toyotathon, but maybe it's just the time of the year. Who knows? But Jordan Love has looked better. He was very good last week against the Dolphins, especially in the first half. Looked like the quarterback we saw towards the end of last year. This game is in Detroit, though. Lions have been great at home. They need to continue. They know they need to continue winning to keep that bye. They probably really want that bye, having to bye such early in the season. Since throwing those 5 interceptions, which you mentioned, November 10th, Jared Goff has thrown 6 touchdown passes and 0 interceptions in his last 3 games, which have all been wins for the Lions, considering they've won, 10 in a row. They need to be able to continue running the ball. They have a chance to do that. The Packers do have a top 10 rushing defense per game, only giving up 106 rushing yards per game. But with the spread of only 3.5, The Lions have been one of the better teams against the spread. I know they didn't cover last week, but overall they have been one of the better teams. I think they can cover 3.5. So I'm gonna take Lions minus 3.5.
They should have covered last week too. That was just wildly frustrating. It felt
Well,
like
they
they were
also
going
should
to.
have potentially went to overtime.
Yeah,
So
that's true. It's a National Football League. Honestly, at times in that game last week, it felt like the NFC Championship. Where it's like, okay, how is this shit happening now? It's every couple plays somebody gets hurt. Gibbs randomly fumbles. I was like,
yeah,
oh god, here we go again. But the Bears just aren't good enough to capitalize on that, unfortunately. But oh, and also I had to mention with the Lions, did you see who got cut right before we started recording?
no.
Josh Reynolds.
Oh no. What team is he on now?
He was on the
Was he on the
Broncos. He
Broncos?
got cut
Yeah.
from the Broncos.
Wow.
So
Well,
might be a homecoming.
you would want that?
I mean, I haven't forgotten.
I think Mega Tim Patrick
He's been
he's been
great.
on
No,
a
he has been
heater.
great. I haven't forgot the NFC title game, obviously, but also the entire 2 years before that, he was great.
Yeah. Well,
He is. I mean, him and Megatim are kind of the same though, so it doesn't really matter. But
where does Allen Robinson fit?
he doesn't play.
Is he still in the
He would.
practice squad or?
Josh, no, he's elevated. He's on the active roster, but he only plays if JMO throws a ball at a other team's DB
Yeah.
or an injury. That's basically the only two situations where he'd play. Or JMO gets suspended. He's actually only played this year if JMO does some shit he's not supposed to do. Now that I think about it, that's the only time he's played this year.
I mean, who
But
knows? Well, I don't think we won't get into any legal issues.
oh, we can get into it. He's fine. They're not pressing charges, so ain't
Oh,
nothing's
so he's
happening to him.
good.
Yeah, he's good now.
I'm Jameson Williams on the Detroit Lions. He's good. I
Yes,
play for the Detroit Lions.
you saw the phone screen of the deputy. You saw the background. He's good. Nothing to worry about here. We'll see when that Rashi Rice suspension comes in next year, though. I'll be feeling good about that finally. But
I
move on
won't.
here. You saw what?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a did he? You don't think he
No,
did
I
anything
mean,
wrong?
no,
Or
he definitely did something wrong. It's just he's a good fantasy player, you know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, you hate to see it. As long as you don't have him in dynasty
Yeah,
leagues, you'll be
I don't.
fine.
I don't. I'm actually chilling.
All right. We'll move
And he
on
should get
here.
suspended.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, I think everybody's kind of on the same page there. And who's the other guy? Who's Addison? Addison too. Suspend
Oh,
him
yeah. I
too.
forgot about Jordan Addison. Yeah.
Yeah, people do forget. They just always want to focus on JMO because his suspensions actually happen right away. But anyways, we'll move on here. We'll move on to the Cupcake Eagles as they continue their cupcake schedule. Finally played a good game against the Ravens, and then boom, right back at it, playing nobody here against the Panthers. Panthers have done a great job competing recently, but most of those games have been at home. Philly's a tough place to play. Carolina has the statistically worst run defense in football. That will obviously be a problem when you're playing against the best running back in football in Saquon Barkley. Eagles have not been generating a ton of turnovers, but Carolina does turn it over a little bit. So I look for the Eagles to probably get a pick or two in this game. Carolina's pass rush with Clowney has been hot recently, and the Eagles surprisingly have been giving up some sacks. Everyone raves about how good their offensive line is, which I am convinced they're a good line. They're obviously a good line. They block well. They're way worse on the tush push this year than last year, but they're a good O line. People just call them good because they like the names on their O line. When you look at the stats, they're giving up sacks. Unless you want to put that on Jalen Hurts, but they don't ever want to go after him either. So they got to pick a side. Carolina isn't great in the red zone. Philly's top five defensively in the red zone. I think the Eagles control this game on the ground. That does scare me a little bit for a big spread if they try to run out the clock, but I think they're much better than Carolina. They're a team that's probably going to skate to the one seed because they're not going to play anybody. They're essentially Indiana, in my opinion. If Indiana beat Ohio State, they had their Ohio State game last week against the Ravens. They took care of business. Now they're going to continue to run the table against these shitty dog shit teams. But I'm going to take the Eagles minus 12, and they're going to continue to play fucking Mountain West teams.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me because this Panthers team has been pretty hot recently. Considering, I mean, they're not winning the games, but they have been covering spreads. They have been looking like a solid football team. They've improved on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. Last two games, Bryce Young has went 21 for 35, 263 yards, a touchdown. Last week against the Bucks, we saw him go 26, 46, 298 yards and a touchdown. He's looked like a potential franchise quarterback. Very good. The offensive line has improved. He's got some weapons with Adam Thielen, Xavier Legette, and hopefully they get Jalen Coker back this week. And then he's got two solid running backs in Chuba Hubbard, and hopefully we get to see more Jonathan Brooks as the season goes on and he keeps recovering. This Panthers offense, they have weapons, and I can see them competing in the future. This Eagles defense, though, has been a very good unit. They shut down Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, maybe the best offense in the NFL last week. And offensively, they've been figuring it out, just getting the ball to Saquon Barkley and letting him cook. The offensive line's done a good job in that run game for him. They've struggled a little bit in the past, but the run game's been great. And if they have to pass, they have two weapons that stack up pretty much as good as any other weapons with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. You can't overlook the Panthers. I don't think the Eagles will. The game is in Philadelphia. I'm unfortunately going to get bet against the Panthers again. I shouldn't have last week, but I'm going to. I'm going to go Eagles minus or the last 2 weeks. I think I have. No, I think I bet against them with the Chiefs, but I know I was against them last week against the Bucks. But I'm going to go Eagles minus 12.
Okay, moving on here to Raiders at Bucks. Bucks head back home after a pretty lackluster performance in Carolina, and they get the Raiders to play. As we've said, the Bucks schedule is so easy going down the stretch here. This is one of many. Raiders are coming off of a tough loss in Kansas City. They're due for a letdown spot here, I'd say. Tampa Bay finds themselves at number 6 in passing offense. And a stat that is crazy is they're actually number 8 in rushing offense now. They were really bad to start the year. They were horrible last year. They couldn't run the ball at all. We saw that come to fruition in that divisional round game against the Lions last year in the playoffs. But now they're continuing to be as good of a passing team as they were last year and a significantly better rushing team. If they had that defense that Brady was playing with, this would be a damn good team. Unfortunately, they're not as great against the pass defensively, which does hurt them. Vegas cannot run the ball at all, and this is a horrible matchup for a team that can't run the ball. Vita Vea is an absolute game wrecker, and it's kind of crazy he doesn't get talked about as much as he probably should be. I don't feel like I ever really hear his name. Maybe it's because D tackle isn't a flashy position, but he's just an absolute freak, and more people need to talk about him and the likes of Chris Jones and Dexter Lawrence and all those guys. AOC passed well versus Kansas City and should be solid versus secondary, I'd say. Like I said, the secondary is giving up a good amount of passing yards. I think AOC will be fine here. Tampa Bay also ranks number 3 in red zone offense, so they should be able to run up the score. And Vegas is pretty bad in the red zone, and Tampa Bay is, of course, great down there defensively as well. Their pass rush is also improving. It was really tough to start the year. They're getting better. And Vegas gives up the 4th most sacks per game. So I think they find some success in the pass rush here, get a few sacks, cover the spread pretty easily. I love them at -7.
Yeah, I kind of go back and forth with this one. I think the Raiders have a chance to move the ball pretty well against this Buccaneers secondary that has struggled versus the pass. They're in the middle of the pack. The Buccaneers defense is towards the bottom. This Buccaneers team has been very good. They have a good stretch here. They didn't cover last week, going against a pretty hot Panthers team. Baker wasn't great. He got a little bit banged up, but he gets a chance to bounce back. Raiders defense gives up about 212.9 passing yards per game, which is in the middle of the pack. And like I said, the Buccaneers defense has been rough against the pass, which could be big for AOC, Brock Bowers, and Jacoby Myers going against a pass defense here that is worse than the Chiefs that they saw last week. Buccaneers are giving up the 3rd most passing yards per game at 258.3. I can see them moving the ball, maybe putting up some big points. Buccaneers need to get the ball to Bucky Irving, Mike Evans, those top weapons. 6.5 is the spread right now. I'm back and forth on it. I don't love either side, but I think I haven't really bet with the Raiders. I think the Buccaneers win this game, but I think I'm gonna go Raiders plus 6.5.
Wow.
Yeah,
Interesting. The Gruden Bowl, some may say.
yeah.
Moving on here to the Jets at Dolphins. Jets are finally massive underdogs in a game here in Miami. Miami has struggled to run the ball, but the Jets are giving up some rushing yards right now. I expect Miami's pass offense to be back to normal in a warm environment even against a tough defense here, I think they're still going to be back to normal. Miami's defense has been great, especially when their offense doesn't put them in horrible positions like they were in the Green Bay game. Only reason they gave up a ton of points is because their offense and their special teams put them in bad positions over and over. They're top 10 in pass and rush defense. I like them to really stifle the Jets' offense here. We've seen when the Jets play good defenses, they kind of just shrivel up, despite a good start last week. Both teams rank about the same in turnovers and takeaways, so if one team can excel there, they're definitely going to be in a better spot. Jets pass rush has been great. Getting to Tua could be a big key for them. I'm done with the Jets after last week. I can't do it anymore. I got to take the Dolphins -6, and I kind of want to take the Jets too, but I'm done with them. I'm done with them.
Yeah, I'm looking at the recent history of this division rivalry, and it's been pretty much dominated by the Dolphins in the past 5 to 6-ish years. They've been very good in this rivalry. I love this Dolphins team right now when they get to play a bad team like the Jets here. They've been struggling. Aaron Rodgers has been inconsistent. He's looked good in moments, but then we saw last week one turnover, and this Jets offense just collapsed. He has some weapons, but I mean, when you only really have two elite weapons and the rest of the guys after that just aren't really good at all, it's kind of tough. They got the running backs. Defensively, they have guys who just are there, but they're not really performing. And with this Dolphins team back at home, they have to win to just keep their hopes alive. Back against the wall, they can still make the playoffs if they get a lot of help in a warmer environment. I'm going to take the Dolphins here, -6.5. I think they win this game pretty easily.
Hey, moving on here to Falcons at Vikings. A little Kirk Cousins revenge game here. Atlanta's been turning it over a ton recently, and there couldn't be a worse matchup than to play against the team who takes away more than anybody in football here in Minnesota. Atlanta's defense has struggled mightily too, though. This seems to be a great matchup for Minnesota, even offensively. Neither team is great in the red zone on offense or defense, so whichever team can convert down there, even if it is Atlanta, who has a tough matchup here, if they can convert when they're in the red zone, that will be a huge difference maker in this game. High over under here, and I like the under for sure. Minnesota is second in sacks per game right now. Atlanta has to protect Kirk, or this can get out of hand quickly. Minnesota has the best pass rush in football. That's probably what Atlanta's going to have to do. Or sorry, that I should say Minnesota has the best rushing defense in football. Unfortunately for Atlanta, you're probably going to have to find a way to run the ball a lot with Bijan to win this game, and it's going to be tough to do so. I love this matchup for Minnesota, but with all of that being said, sometimes I just gotta trust my intuition, and I don't think the Vikings are that good of a team. I'm gonna take the Falcons +5 to compete in this game.
Wow. Um,
Watch the
I,
Vikings win by 30 though. They match up great. Hate to say it, unfortunately.
They do. I go back and forth on this one as well. Kirk Cousins gets a chance at a revenge game. He has been playing the worst football of his career, though, recently. 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions last week. The Falcons have lost 3 games in a row now, and Kirk Cousins has 10 turnovers in those games, 6 interceptions, 4 fumbles. The Falcons as a team are 2-6 when Kirk Cousins throws at least one interception. They are 4-0 when he does not throw an interception, so more likely he has thrown interception, or well, more likely he is to throw an interception, but we'll see. Vikings defense is very good against the run. They only give up 81.3 rushing yards per game, which is first in the NFL. But they haven't been great against the pass. And forcing the ball into Kirk Cousins' hands could be huge. I like the Vikings defense to slow him down. If they can get him into a turnover, like I said, that could be huge. And on the offensive side for the Vikings, they just need to continue playing well. They like to score early and often. Get the ball to Sam Darnold, get it to his weapons, Addison and Darnold. I like this Vikings team at home. I don't think they covered last week, but I'm gonna trust them to get it done this week. I'm gonna go Vikings -6.
Okay, moving on here to the Browns at Steelers. Steelers get basically an immediate rematch after the disaster that happened in the Ora Bowl one. Jameis and the Browns are passing it so well. And I'm actually now. Oh no, never mind. That wasn't the Ora Bowl was the Bills game. I was about to say did Jameis get to play at both of them, but he didn't. Jameis and the
Yeah,
Browns
this
are
is the original Oracle.
yes,
Yeah.
this is the OG one. Jameis and the Browns are passing it so well. Like I said, they're first in the NFL since Jameis took over a quarterback, which is just my favorite stat in football right now. Uh, Pittsburgh has had the fourth best rush defense. The Browns have struggled mightily in the run game this entire year. I expect this to not be nearly as bad conditions as that first game, and I don't think the Browns are going to be able to run the ball. Pittsburgh's offense has been good in every game that wasn't the Ora Bowl. I think they're going to be back to normal-ish in this game. Pittsburgh has actually been horrible at scoring in the red zone, which is very interesting because their offense has been so good. They're sub 50% in the red zone, but luckily Cleveland is not great down there defensively. Steelers are the number one takeaway team in the league. The Browns have turned it over 18 times this year. Cleveland gives up the most sacks per game, and I think TJ and Herbig and all those guys, Highsmith, get after it in this game. I love Pittsburgh here in a revenge spot. Even at the big spread at -6, I love Jameis to death. But I think the Steelers get their revenge and they take care of the Browns easily.
Yeah, I know we had talked about the AFC North. It tends to be a trendy division where it's just teams beat teams, and the the Browns usually beat the Steelers when they're at home, but it also looks like the Steelers beat the Browns when they're in Pittsburgh most of the time. The last time I see a loss was the playoff game, and before that, it seems to go on pretty long as well. We saw this game, it feels like yesterday, but it was 2 weeks ago. Jameis Winston played good in that game. He made do or die plays or bang or bust plays. He's been able to get the ball to Jerry Jeudy a lot. That's been his top weapon here ever since the departure of Amari Cooper. Jeudy has been a very good weapon, great for fantasy. Like I said, I think he's about fifth in receiving yards right now in the entire season, which is crazy to look at. He's finally starting to live up to some of that potential he had when he was drafted. The Steelers really kind of don't want to lose this one. This is one of the easiest games they have remaining on their schedule. They need to kind of get it done. Hopefully, there's not the same weather implications, at least this time, so Russ can get the ball in the air and throw it to his guys. Threw for over 400 yards last week in one of the best passing games of his career. I like the Steelers in this one as well. I think they get it done at home. So Steelers -6.5.
Okay, moving on here to Saints at Giants. Saints are 5 point road favorites in this game. Says a lot about the Giants that they're playing against a team like the Saints and they're still 5 point dogs at home. New Orleans has been giving up a ton of sacks recently, or has not been giving up a ton of sacks recently, I should say. So the Giants pass rush should be semi-stymied in this game. That was another bad take. We said the Saints were going to have one of the worst O-lines in football. That hasn't been the case. Giants don't know who their QB will be in this game. It might be DeVito, it might be Drew Lock, but they're not sure as we're recording here today on Tuesday night. Saints defense has struggled, so maybe the Giants will be able to score in this game. There's a possibility. This is going to be a freezing cold game here for a dome team in New Orleans. Giants have been great against the pass, so I think New Orleans is going to have to play through Kamara again or try their best to. Giants are horrible in the red zone offensively. The Saints are great down there. I think this is just too big of a spread, though, for a cold game with two defensive oriented teams. So I'm going to take the Giants +5. I think they keep this close ish, and the Saints probably still win, but I think the Giants keep it close.
Giants haven't been good at home all season. They really have struggled, especially recently. The Daniel Jones situation has not helped this team at all. Kind of seems like Brian Dable's lost the locker room. Guys are pretty much at this point kind of just showing up for their paycheck and to go home. They haven't been terrible against the run. The Giants have been terrible versus the run, fourth worst in the NFL, giving up 145.8 rushing yards per game. I think this could be a very big day for Alvin Kamara on the ground in the Saints offense. They did lose Taysom Hill for the season, which does hurt. They still should be missing Chris Olave. Obviously, they're still missing. Why am I blanking?
Rashid Shaheed.
What's Rashid Shaheed? Yeah, Marquez Valdez-Scantling kept coming to my mind, but he's the one who has been playing.
Yeah.
He's been good for
And
them.
Equinemius St. Brown. Don't forget about
Yeah,
him.
so they don't really have great weapons right now, but I trust this Saints team. They actually seem to still be able to play for something. Rizzy's done a good job of having this team ready to go, and I just can't pick this Giants team anymore. I did a lot early in the season. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go Saints -5.
I'm just still a damn fool, I guess, continuing to pick the same teams that bite me in the ass. But at least I didn't take the Jets this week. But move on here to Jags at Titans. Titans open up as 3.5 point home favorites here versus Jacksonville. Jacksonville's offense has not been horrible with Mac Jones. Honestly, Mac Jones hasn't been that bad this year, I would say. But the Titans defense is great. I think they're going to be able to get to him early and often. Jags rush defense is not great. Pollard should have a great game here as he's been having for most of the year if they're not getting down by so much where they can't run the ball with him in those some of the games like the Lions game and the Commanders game where they just couldn't run the ball with him because they were down by so much early. Titans have been a better team recently offensively, though. They should find some success. Both teams are bad on both ends in the red zone, so whichever team can get down there and convert will win. I have more confidence the Titans will. Jags are going to have to play in a cold environment. Tennessee's weakest line right or weakest link right now is probably their offensive line, maybe their quarterback, but probably their offensive line. But the Jags aren't generating much pass rush at all right now, so I hate this line with a passion. I'm definitely not actually going to bet this, but I'm going to take the Titans -3.5.
Yeah, I hate this line as well. I bet with the Titans last week. They've been playing better football, but they are the worst team in the NFL versus the spread sitting at 2-10. Kind of a tank bowl. Neither fan bases really want to win. And it's the best passing defense in the NFL, and the Titans versus the worst passing defense in the NFL in terms of yards per game with the Jaguars. Jaguar season's been over for a while now. Losing Trevor Lawrence just hurts a lot more, just in general. Mac Jones has been solid, but it's not going to make up going against a really good passing defense, and especially when you have the worst passing defense in the NFL. The Jaguars have not had a good rushing attack at all, only averaging about 101 yards on the ground, which isn't great. I think the Jags struggle in this game in Tennessee. They're going to be forced to pass against the Titans defense that really just doesn't give up much passing yards. And outside of last week, we have seen this Titans team contend. We've seen Will Levis look a lot better. He's really developed a connection with Nick Westbrook-Akine, who's been a touchdown machine recently. I think they're a little better than the record shows, especially against the spread at this point. It's a good chance for Will Levis to have a big game and kind of prove that he can be the QB for the Titans next season. So I'm also really regretfully going with the Titans -3.5.
Okay, moving on here to Seahawks at Cardinals. It's interesting to see the Seahawks opening up as favorites in this game. Seahawks have been finding ways to win recently. Or sorry, it's interesting to see the Cardinals opening as favorites in this game, I should say. Seahawks have been finding ways to win as of late, despite not playing really good offensive football at all. They've been finding ways to win, especially leaning on their defense and their special teams. I think we see another pretty bad offensive game here from Seattle because the Cardinals defense has been playing so great. I also love the under in this game. Cardinals offense is struggling and playing against a defense that's been making plays, being able to turn teams over, being able to force punts. Both teams have 13 takeaways this year, but Seattle does turn it over more, so there's a little bit of an advantage for Arizona there, especially at home. Cardinals have to convert better in the red zone. Seahawks are about average down there defensively, so they're going to have abilities to convert down there if they get the chance. I'm very back and forth on this one as well, but I'm going to lean. God damn. I had Seahawks, but I'm going to change it to Cardinals. I'm going to take the Cardinals.
Yeah, this is another game. We talked about the Steelers, Browns, the second time these teams have played in 2 weeks. Seahawks have been pretty good recently. We saw 2 weeks ago them really dominate this Cardinals team, held the Cardinals to a season low 6 points in that loss. They haven't scored less than 13 in any other game this season. Kyler Murray did not look good in that game at all, 160 yards, threw a pick six. Mike McDonald's defense had maybe its best game of the season there. He came from the Ravens. He watched a guy like Lamar Jackson, a scrambling quarterback, all the time, coached against him. He might be good against these scrambling type quarterbacks. Cardinals offense hasn't been good recently. One touchdown in their last 9 quarters of play. The defense hasn't been able to really keep up. And the Seahawks defense in those 2 weeks as well has been solid. I think they're going to continue to do what they do. And I'm going to go with Seahawks +2.5.
Okay, moving on here to Bills at Rams. It's interesting to see the Bills as semi-narrow favorites here at just 4 points, despite how great they've been playing and how shaky the Rams have been. The Rams defense has been pretty bad recently. I see the Bills being in an indoor game here, being able to go off against this pretty questionable defense, in my opinion. I think James Cook has a pretty dominant game, as well as Josh Allen. I think he'll have a good game on the ground as well. The Rams don't generate a ton of turnovers, and the Bills are a team that haven't turned it over at all. Second least in football, just under the Chargers in turnovers. So they really have been taking care of the football, and the Rams, who don't generate turnovers, are going to be in a tough spot. Bills should be protecting Josh Allen all game. Rams haven't had a crazy pass rush, and the Bills allow the least sacks per game. They're also great in the red zone. The Rams are great down there defensively, too, but the Rams have not been as great offensively down there, and that could be a problem. This feels like a bit of a trap line. I like the Bills so much at -4, though. I just feel like they're a much better team. I think it's a good matchup for them here. So I'm going to take the Bills -4.
Yeah, I've been riding the Bills most of the games this season. It's been good. What is their record against the spread? Buffalo is 8-4 against the spread, so they have been pretty good. The college football playoff reveal is actually going on right now, by the way, which I
Is
thought it
it?
started at 7. Yeah.
Oh wow,
Um, Bills road game, they haven't been as good on the road as they
I
have been
missed
at
it.
home. Um, but they have been rushing the ball very, very well recently. 153 rushing yards per game since week 10. They're going to want to pound the rock in this game against a Rams defense that gives up 144.2 yards per game on the ground, which is bottom five in the NFL. They can't stop the run. I like this Bills team to stay hot. They've been surprising that I saw a stat that Josh Allen is undefeated in the Pacific time zone in his career. So I am also going to be on Bills -4.
And don't even worry about the bracket show coming out because I put my bracket out on Twitter. So don't
Was
even
that
stress.
was that like for the end or for what you expected to see?
What I took into account who I think is going to win the conference championship games.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, anyways, we can move on here. We only have what 3 games left here with the Bears at the 49ers. Two teams dying for a win. Something we'll have to give in this game. Bears run defense has struggled this year. The Niners don't have CMC. They don't have Jordan Mason. They're gonna have to find a way with Grando. Niners defense has been really solid versus the pass, which is a horrible matchup for the Bears as they have really struggled against these teams with great secondaries. 49ers have been awful offensively and defensively in the red zone, like actually awful, bottom 3, 4, 5 in the league. Bears are really great in both those categories, so they have an advantage there. Neither team has had a great pass rush, but I trust the Niners O line a lot more, especially if they can get Trent Williams back for this game. Niners turn it over a ton. Bears are a good takeaway team. They're gonna need some turnovers throughout this game to get a win. Bears, though, are 0-5 on the road. This is a toss-up game for me. I'm going to take the Niners -3.5.
Yeah, this is a toss game for me as well. The Bears do get the firing your head coach boost that you tend to get from firing your head coach. Their defense could be ready to go. Thomas Brown has had the offense looking a lot better recently since the firing of Luke. Again, I'm blanking on the name. Not Luke Getzey. That was the last one.
Shane Waldron?
Shane Waldron. Man,
Sorry, I
he's
got
been
you.
better since the yeah. He's been better since the firing of Shane Waldron, looking solid. There's been two or three teams that I've been very disappointed in so far this season. The 49ers are one of them. Just a very disappointing season. Tons of injuries. Ayuk's been injured. CMC's been out most of the season. They also lose Jordan Mason now for 4 weeks as well. Just so much going on. Trent Williams has stuff off the field. Unfortunately, that's very sad to hear. The San Francisco defense has been good against the pass, which could be big. Fourth in the NFL in passing yards per game, fourth best in middle of the pack in rushing yards per game. But just offensively, ooh, I feel like they've lost their identity overall. They're not going to have their top two running backs. With Kittle banged up too, the offense hasn't really been there. The game is in San Francisco, but I think with the firing the head coach boost, I think this could be the nail in the coffin for the 49ers here, and I'm going to go Bears +3.5.
I'm going to switch too.
You're
I'm
going to
going to
switch as
switch
well,
too.
Bears +3.5?
The only reason I'm switching, though, is because I remember on Friday when I saw Eberflus got fired, I made a mental note in my head. I didn't know who they played this coming week, but I
Wow,
made a
bro, that's
mental
crazy.
note just to take the Bears against whoever they're playing if they're underdogs because of that boost.
Yeah.
And
I'm kind of
I
shocked though. I
like it
mean,
here. So I'm going to take Bears
70,
+3.5.
70% of the people are on the Bears, which is a little surprising, but
Yeah, I don't love that. I don't love that at all, but I'm going to take them +3.5. If I had to be
I got
specific,
that
I
too.
think maybe the Niners win by a late field goal, which the Bears have been
Hmm.
losing by literally almost every game now.
And yeah, they stay the same old Bears.
Yeah, so I think if I had to make a prediction, it would be that. All right, let's move on now. We have 2 more games left here. Chargers at Chiefs here. Huge Sunday night football game. Chargers defense is so good and they force a ton of turnovers. They can definitely turn Patrick Mahomes over in this game. Chargers are a much better team than they were the last time they played Kansas City earlier on in the year, but they now unfortunately do not have J.K. Dobbins. I'm worried about their run game without Dobbins, especially against a Kansas City team that runs the hell out of the ball. Neither team is great in the red zone offensively, but both are really great defensively. Chargers pass rush is much better than Kansas City. They have a significant advantage there if they can exploit it and get to Mahomes, especially on third down. They got to be able to send those blitzes and get home to him. Herbert's going to have a big day, I think. It's unfortunate for them that they have to play in the cold because this would be a great matchup for him passing. But I think the Chiefs get up for a big game here. I think they always play well in their big games outside of the Bills game this year. I'm going to take them -4, despite I think a lot of people are going to be on the Chargers. What are you
Yeah, I
shaking
think
your head at? What happened?
just looking at, I guess we can mention the bracket after we finish these previews, but
Yeah,
just a little surprising so far to me. Yeah, Chargers Chiefs, huge game for the Chargers if they want a chance to win the division. Chiefs beat them 17-10 in week 4. Kansas City's defense held the Chargers to a season low 55 rushing yards in that game, and the Chargers are 1-4 when they're held under 90 yards on the ground. They're not going to have J.K. Dobbins, and this receiving core with the potential of Lad McConkey missing this game is going to be pretty weak. I don't expect them to put up any number too much big numbers on the Chiefs. They haven't done it all season. Uh, but I think that
I see what you're talking about.
the Chargers defense is going to keep it close. Chiefs in their past 15 December home games have on a Sunday are 14-1. They're 6-0 at home this season. I mean, it's the Chiefs. They're going to find a way to win. And what's the spread? I just had it and lost it. What was the spread?
4 points.
4, yeah. I thought that's what it was. I'm still going to take Chiefs -4. I haven't been good betting the Chiefs spreads, but I'm going to continue it, unfortunately.
All right, moving on here to our Monday Night Football game. Not one I'm super excited about here with Bengals at Cowboys. Bengals are big favorites on the road here versus the Cowboys. Cowboys' pass defense has been a lot better recently. Micah Parsons coming back really just helped this team a lot. Their run defense still sucks. I think Chase Brown could have a good day, although the Bengals really don't run it well at all. Dallas is the worst red zone defense in football. So as long as the Bengals can get down there, and they have been able to get down there, I think they're going to be able to put up some points. Dallas does have a big pass rush advantage here if they can get to Joe Burrow. I don't love the Cincinnati line, so I think they will be able to. The only way I see Cincy losing here is if they have one of those off offensive games, because I could definitely see the Cowboys putting up points against this dog shit defense. Cowboys do turn the ball over a ton though, so they will almost certainly throw a couple picks. I don't love this one either, but I'm gonna take the Bengals and the points at -5.5.
Yeah, I go back and forth on this one as well. Bengals defense has not been good at all. Been terrible this season, especially recently. They have been unable to keep themselves in games. Their offense has been the exact opposite. They've been fantastic scoring points. Joe Burrow's moved the ball well. Jamar Chase has been great. In the run game, Dallas has allowed almost 5 yards per carry, which is third most in the NFL. They've given up 21 rushing yards, most in the league. They have a terrible PFF run grade. I could see this being a big day from Chase Brown on the ground. He's been better in recent weeks. And just this Bengals offense as a whole could really get going off that. And then you look at the Cowboys, they can't run the ball. But Cooper Rush has been solid throwing the ball a little bit. I can see the Cowboys staying close in this game and covering 5.5 points. I think the Bengals at this point they have to kind of almost just be due for a win. So I'm gonna take the Bengals on the points as well.
All right, so we'll move on now to our best bets. It's an odd number week, right? Yeah, so it's me. Um, I don't know if I really want it this week to be first, but
Yeah, I don't like much here.
I'm trying to
Oh,
remember what you picked so I know what not to use first here.
there's not much
Um,
I like. So
I'll go with give me it, give me Atlanta, Minnesota under 45.5. I like that line. It's a bit high. I think both these teams, I think the Vikings are definitely defensively oriented. The only problem that I face in making this pick is if the Vikings play make enough plays on defense that they start scoring points because of it offensively. Even though Atlanta's not a great team defensively, or honestly not even offensively right now, I still don't completely trust the Vikings offense. I don't think they're going to put up a ton of points in this game. So I like the under 45.5 here, and I think we're even in a good spot where if Atlanta gets blown out, the I don't think the Vikings are putting up 35 points. So I think we're in a good spot regardless there. Give me under 45.5.
yeah, for my first best bet, I'm gonna take Bills -4. They've been humming recently, going against a Rams team that hasn't been great recently. So I'm gonna take Bills -4. I think Josh Allen is due for a big game. I think James Cook's gonna have a huge game on the ground, and they get it done in LA.
Okay, my next one here, I'm gonna go with another under. Actually, no. Oh, did you just take the Bills?
I took Bills -4.
Okay, then I am gonna go with another under. Give me Seattle, Arizona under 44.5. Same situation here. This is two defensive-oriented teams. Seattle's been both teams also very, very cold on offense. This is why I kind of wish I should have took that Arizona Minnesota under last week. But give me Seattle Arizona under. I think the Arizona pass rush will be able to finally have some success going against this bad O line, and vice versa for Seattle. So I think we see a lot of punts in this game, a lot of turnovers, and the under hits.
Yeah, for my second one, I'm going to go with Dolphins -6.5. I like them versus this Jets team. I think they're going to have a chance to really go out in Miami. They've been very good against the Jets in Miami, and I think they're going to get it done there and dominate a rougher Jets team.
Okay, my last one here. This is probably my favorite, but I knew you weren't taking it because you picked against them on the regular picks. But I'm gonna take the Bucks -7. I think they blow out the Raiders in this game. It's a great matchup for them. I know the Raiders have a decent secondary and a decent run defense, but they don't compete with this Bucks offense. And on offense for the Raiders, it's gonna be tough sledding. I think they had some rare success last week against a good run defense team, but I think it's a bad matchup for them. I'm going to take the Bucks -7.
I think for my last best bet here, I think I'm going to take Chiefs Chargers under. I think this could be a low scoring game. Two solid defenses. I don't see the Chargers putting up that many points, missing so many of their top guys, and just not enough weapons. The Chiefs defense has been struggling, but I like this game to stay under 43. So I'm going to go Chiefs Chargers under 43.
All right. So before we end here, quick look at the bracket while we got it. Anything? Oh, let me just compare it to mine here. Well, they're gonna have Texas, but assuming Texas doesn't win, yeah, SMU 3, Boise State 4. That plays. They have Penn State over Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I don't love that. This is
I
what we
mean,
talked about last week, though. We both said it should be Notre Dame, uh, and we both kind of felt like there's a chance they put Penn State.
there's still I mean, if Penn State loses, I think Notre Dame is they are going to jump them.
But this is assuming Penn State loses,
Yeah.
and they still have Notre Dame below them.
Well, I
Which is
mean, this bracket isn't assuming it. No.
Yeah, I guess this one isn't because they do have them at the 3 seed.
And Notre Dame at the 4 ahead of.
Yeah, they'd have to. You're right. They'd have to drop Penn State.
The biggest shock to me was seeing Ole Miss above South Carolina.
That's what that I saw that one too. That was wild. That was absolutely
And
wild.
barring anything absurd, it looks like Miami isn't going to make it.
No, I mean we sat here and talked about it for like 40 minutes, just like an hour ago, about the teams that we think are going to get in. And I felt like we kind of came to a conclusion on 12, and that is the 12 that we're looking at right now.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit mixed up here. I mean, in my little bracket I made here, I had Bama at 12 and Arizona State at 11. They have that flipped, but IU still at 10,
I
Tennessee
mean,
at
Bama
9.
has to be in then. I mean, the chaos scenario now is Clemson winning.
Right, right.
And that's if Clemson wins, do you keep SMU in or not? I don't know. What's
There's the
SMU's
debate.
strength of schedule?
Um, Not higher than Bama's. You know who has a sneaky low strength of schedule though, and they're being saved by their big win against Bama? Tennessee,
Tennessee, yeah.
28th.
I know. I don't disagree. They've
The
had
the
that,
benefit for them is the team they're competing with for the spot here is Alabama, and they have
and
the
they
win
beat.
against them. So that is their benefit.
Yeah. What's their other loss to? Did they lose to
Tennessee lost to Georgia.
well Georgia and
Um, Georgia
it
and
wasn't a good team, was it?
Ole Miss? Was it
No, I don't think it was
no,
Ole Miss.
LSU? No, it wasn't LSU. Who the hell did
I
they
want
lose
to
to?
say it was not basketball. What are we doing here?
Who the hell did they lose to? That's actually gonna bother me.
Because yeah, it wasn't Vandy. They beat Vandy last week.
Did they play Texas? I don't remember if they
Was it?
did.
Oh, was it Arkansas?
Arkansas, right? You're right.
Which
It
is a
was
bad
Arkansas.
loss.
It was Arkansas. Yeah, that's a bad loss. Agreed. Agreed. But you're not gonna
So
put them. The only way
lower
we
than
don't
Bama.
count head to head is if they
I
get
mean,
that extra game.
Bama has lost to Vandy.
Yeah.
Um,
Though Vandy isn't the bad loss there for Bama. It's
IU having
Oklahoma.
to, well, right now they got IU going to Georgia, Bama going to Notre Dame, Tennessee going to Ohio State, and Arizona State going to Penn State.
But the way I see it, like I said, when I
Arizona
did
State going to Penn State, it's a nightmare scenario for them, though.
it is, but I don't think the way I just see it shaking out is I see Oregon beating Penn State and I see Georgia beating Texas and I see Indiana having to go into Penn State. That's just kind of what it looks like. It's looked like that for a couple weeks now, and I think it's shaping out. This shows me it's shaping out.
I think most likely it's going to be Arizona State going to Notre Dame. Oh, they just took it away from me.
I paused it on my screen. I had to see it. Um, it'll be. I agree. Arizona State going to Notre Dame. Alabama going to Texas.
I mean, I could see them flipping that though to just make the Big Ten and SEC teams play
Yeah, I don't
instead of
get.
putting the
I don't understand the Arizona at 12 and Bama at 11 personally.
yeah.
I don't get that. I think it should be flipped. But I mean, showing what they're showing us now, personally, my opinion doesn't fucking matter. But showing what they're showing us here, I like. You're right. It's looking like Bama going into Texas if Texas loses, and Tennessee going into Ohio State. People are going to be mad because they lost to Michigan. But I hate to say it, what I've learned from this whole discussion we've had, and then looking at this right here today, Ohio State's getting a home playoff game, and people are going to have to cry about it. They're getting one.
Yeah.
They're not falling below 8.
And yeah, and I like Ohio State's matchup versus Tennessee, and then they could potentially get a. I think they'd move up above 8 though. No, I mean, no, you can't put them above Penn State. I don't know.
I think they're almost locked in at 8.
I don't know how they're going to view the head-to-head versus making a conference championship. I mean, because
Oh, what do you mean
that's
them versus
what it
Penn
is
State?
with them and Penn State. Like if Penn
Yeah.
State loses to Oregon, then they have the same loss to the same team, and Ohio State has the head-to-head. So
And obviously, Ohio State in this scenario would want the higher seed because they'd rather play Indiana than Tennessee, probably. But still, I like. This is going to sound a little crazy. I like Ohio State's chances better of playing Tennessee as the 8th seed and getting Oregon in the second round than playing Indiana as the 7th seed and having to go play Georgia in the next round. Like, at least you already played Oregon. You know what you got to do to beat Oregon. And that was a home
yeah,
game for Oregon. I think you'd rather play them again.
just gotta hope this loss really doesn't mess up their headspace because that was a bad loss.
Yeah, that's
It
true.
didn't.
That you got to take that into consideration too.
I mean, Will Howard looked atrocious. I
Yeah, for
don't think we
sure.
really mentioned that. He looked absolutely terrible.
But we can end the pod now here, episode 100. Going to be one of our longest probably,
Yeah.
which is crazy. But we will be back on
Well,
Monday. What was that?
we went from talking about a 14 playoff, and now we got to expand that all the way to 12. So,
Yeah, for real. But that'll about do it. Our next episode will be Monday. We will recap all of the week 14 games that have happened. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it's week 14 now. You were supposed to pick first in the best bets, but whatever.
I
You
mean,
took the one
we
I
didn't
was
have the
gonna take
same bets
anyways.
anyways.
But yeah. Um. Anyways, we'll be back. We will also be talking about some NBA. Give a little NBA update on Monday as well. So that will be good to get into, as well as recapping the however many games we have to recap. It'll probably be 11 at that point. So if you made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe at the links in our description for Spotify, TikTok, social media, and all that good stuff. And we'll see everybody in the next one.